All right, thanks for coming, guys. Um, my name is Scott Rolliter, for a few of you that may not know. Oh, the light's kind of bright over here. Um, uh, look, we got our new table set up here with the Rasson table and the nice stadium seating back here, so hopefully that'll be good going forward. Again, for those of you that might be a little bit new, I do these clinics once a month, second Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock, and I cover different topics every month, and then I usually stay here for a little bit, and so I'm more than happy to help you with any other issues you might have or any questions you might have after the clinic as well. So today I want to talk about angles, and there are a bunch of rules essentially when you're playing pool based on certain angles that can be pretty useful when you're playing. So I kind of want to cover all of those today. Some of them are fairly common, one or two of them are not that well known. So hopefully it'll help you with your position play, shot making, things like that, knowing these rules. So the first one I want to talk about is the tangent line. Is there anybody here that doesn't know what the tangent line is or is not sure? Hopefully. Okay, good. I need one too. So when you hit a shot with a sliding ball, so in other words, the cue ball is not rolling forward, it's not rolling backwards. So if you can imagine, if I have some distance here, if I just hit this in the center of the ball is going to slide a little bit, and it's going to eventually pick up natural roll. So when it hits this ball, it's going to be rolling forward. If I start here and I hit draw, and I hit enough draw on the ball, it's going to be spinning backwards the whole time, and when it hits the ball, it's going to draw back some distance. So the way you hit a stop shot or a stun shot is if the ball is sliding at contact. So that's a little bit easier said than done. Technically, you have to put, missing my strike ball, there we go. Technically, you have to put some amount of draw on the ball if you have any kind of distance. So if I'm here, that close to the ball, I can basically hit it in the center of the ball, and you can see the ball just kind of slid the whole way there. It didn't roll forward, it didn't roll back. But if I have some sort of distance to travel, you can watch, I'll try to do it where probably right around this spot, the ball should be, you'll see it convert from draw, it'll slide, and then it'll roll forward. Okay? So in that little zone right there, about 4 to 6 inches maybe, if I were to hit a ball full in the face, it's going to stop. If I hit a ball full in the face and it's got a little forward roll on it, it's going to roll forward a little bit. If it's got a little backward roll still left on it, it's going to roll back. So I'll try to see if I can demonstrate some of these. So first I'm going to try to hit a stop shot. So I have to hit this a little below center just to keep the draw on it enough to get down there. Okay? So that stopped. Now if I hit this, if I hit it a little weak, even if I go below center, but I decelerate a little on my stroke, you can see it had some draw on it, but it lost the draw on the way there, and then it rolled forward afterwards. And if I put a little too much draw on the ball, it will draw backwards some distance. Okay. So the tangent line is a 90-degree line when you hit the ball, and as long as the ball is sliding at contact, it will follow right down that 90-degree line. It doesn't matter if you have left English on it, right English on it. It's only if that ball is sliding at contact. So a good way to picture this, let's say I'm coming from this direction and I hit the ball like this. You can come over here like this, and you can look right down that 90-degree line, and that would be your tangent line. Now technically, if you're planning to try to hit another ball or you're trying to play in position very precisely, you really want to look down not through the middle of the balls, but you want to look down the middle of the cue ball, because that's where the cue ball is going to go. It's not going to go down this line. It's going to go down the line that's right in the middle of the ball, if that makes sense. So you have to be, let's say there's a ball right here, and you're looking at that line and you think it's going to hit the ball, but the cue ball is actually going down this line, so you could miss the ball a little bit. So it's kind of just a matter of about an inch over on that line. So that's if it's essentially a stop shot. So a stop shot is when you're hitting the ball full in the face. If it's at an angle, typically it's referred to as a stun shot. And if you hit a stun shot, it's going to go down that 90-degree line, and it's going to, hit that rail at that angle. So that is really the basis for all of your position plays. If I like the fact I want the ball to go down that line, then there's no reason for me to put follow or draw on the ball. I can just hit a stun shot, and I know that the ball is going to go here, and then angle in, angle out, right? So if I get rid of this ball, if I came in like this, I'm going to basically come over here like this, so I could probably hit right about here with the ball. So this is if I hit a stun shot with no spin, right? So it picks up a little bit of English off the rail, and this cloth is new, so it may pick up a bit more, but you can see I can control my position very easily just by using that 90-degree principle. So let's say I have a ball in the same spot, and I look at my tangent line, and I think I'm going to come right here. Well, now if I want to come, say, up in this area for some reason, I can bend the cue ball back with a little bit of draw. Or I can use a little bit of left English. Either one is going to open up that angle and make the ball go back. So if I just hit this with a little bit of draw, right, I can open up that angle quite a bit, and that's with no side spin or anything. And if I want to go forward of that angle, so instead of coming back toward the cue ball this way, maybe I want to come here and straight across the table this way, I can just put a little follow on the ball, and that's going to go forward of the tangent line. So as long as you know where that tangent line is and you can see that line, you can always alter your position from there with a little bit of left or right spin or a little bit of follow or draw. Another principle that's important is how quickly the ball deviates from that tangent line. So if I hit the ball soft, it will go down that tangent line just a little bit, and let's say I'm putting follow on the ball, it'll go just a little bit and it'll start to go forward right away. If I hit it really hard, it's actually going to go down that tangent line longer and then curve a little bit later. And that's how good players typically access a bunch of different spots on the rail, is by using different speeds. So a lot of times you'll see with draw shots, for instance, let's say I have a shot like this with a slight angle. If I want the ball to draw back pretty quickly because I'm trying to get on this side, let's say of the 6, I need to hit it kind of soft because I want the ball to, I don't want it to go down this tangent line and then draw. I want it to come back as quick as possible. So that means I'm going to hit it a little lower than I normally would, but also a little softer to try to get back in this area. Okay, so I came back on this side. If I hit that shot hard and have about the same angle, you're going to see that the cue ball is going to come this way and then it's going to draw. So I can actually probably get over on this side. Okay, so that's the same shot pretty much, same tangent line, same draw, but with one being soft and one being hard, I can hit anywhere from over here to over there based on how hard I hit the ball and how long I make that ball go on the tangent line. Now, I may not want to hit it that hard because maybe I hit the rail and bounce way back out. So there's some other techniques you can do to kind of achieve that result without hitting it so hard. So one thing you can do is hit what's known as a stun draw. So it's basically in between a stun shot and a draw shot. You basically hit what a stun shot would be, and you go just a little lower than that. And that's a technique that you see. It's very subtle, but you'll see a lot of professional players doing that. So if I had that shot and I was a little bit on the wrong angle, I don't want to hit it that hard. So I would hit a stun draw shot. And so basically I'm going to look at my stun shot from here, and I'm just going to go down just a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's in between those angles, right? The draw shot gets me way over here. The stun shot would get me here. So it kind of gets you that in between. And you can practice those shots. It's hard to practice them one at a time when they come up in a match. So a good way to practice that stun draw shot is just to set up a shot that's a few feet away like this and just try to draw it back 2 inches. That's essentially what a stun draw shot is just a very, very slight draw shot. So that type of action would be basically a stun draw. So it just kind of creeps back a little bit. It's not really spinning, it's not stopping, it's just sort of in between. Same thing with the stun follow shot. A lot of people call this a replacement shot. So this would be, I don't want it to stop, I don't want it to follow, I just want it to go forward like an inch or two. And they call it a replacement shot because if you hit it properly, the cue ball will actually take the place of the 9. It'll roll forward about 2 inches. Okay, should actually aim the ball too, but you can see the cue ball just kind of crept forward. And again, that's very useful for hitting different parts of the rail. Because the follow shot's going to hit one part of the rail, the stun's going to hit another, but there's a whole bunch of spots in between, and the way you get to those spots is by using that subtle different amount of follow. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So the tangent line is really important. Someone was just talking to me yesterday about, kind of teaching a beginner and what you would start with first. And honestly, if I had a chance to do it the right way, which you almost never do, I'd start out with probably 10 hours of classroom training before you even hit a table. That would be the right way to teach somebody how to play. But if a lot of beginners come to me and they want to do different things and they want to learn bank shots or they want to learn how to draw the ball or whatever, well, you kind of have to be able to hit the ball in a straight line first. And it's very helpful to be able to understand how to hit a stop shot. I have a lot of people in leagues. I used to remember this even back in the day. People would hate to have, this kind of shot. They'd always fear like they were going to scratch. And there we go. There's a bunch of different things you can do to not scratch. But the thing is, if you put enough draw on this ball to make it a stop shot, it requires, you're 4 or 5 feet away. It requires a little bit of draw. It's not, I'll find my other stripe here real quick. It's not, you can't just hit it in the center of the ball. From this distance, you have to hit it probably at least halfway between the center and the bottom, and you have to keep the draw on it. So usually what happens is people aim really low, and they don't have a good draw stroke, and then they do that, and the ball goes forward like that. So you have to keep that draw spinning on the ball the whole time. And the better stroke you have, the softer you can hit the ball and still keep that draw on there the whole way. But if I was in a game, I wouldn't try to hit this super soft and super perfect. I would probably hit it a little bit harder just to guarantee that it doesn't go forward. Just something like that. And you can see that ball was spinning all the way down there. And when it hit, it actually came back like a little bit. So I wanted to make sure I don't make the mistake of going the other direction, which would be letting it relax, and then about right here it releases, and then it follows it right in the pocket. You can also aim the ball a little bit to the left or a little bit right of the pocket, and you'll also eliminate scratching that way. And if the ball is deep in the pocket like this, I usually advocate just going rail first on it too. It's usually the best way to do it. You can just hit the rail a little bit before the ball, and that eliminates any possibility of your speed being a little bit off and scratching, things like that. Okay. Any other questions, like on tangent line or anything like that? I think, yep.
The draw shot, the one that you hit soft goes that way, and then the one that you hit hard draw and comes up the line here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that draw the same pressure, or are you hitting it harder?
Okay, so the question was the difference between those two draw shots, and one came back and one came that way if I was hitting at different speeds. So yeah, technically, if I was trying to hit the same amount of draw, to get it to come down the tangent line longer before it drew, I'd have to hit it a little harder, because that's what makes it go down the tangent line longer. The other solution would be the second shot that I hit, which is aiming a little higher on the cue ball, and that way I could hit the same speed but vary my tip position, which is what I would normally do in a match. And then by getting less draw on the ball, it would follow the tangent line, and when it draws back, it's not going to draw quite as strongly as the first one did, if that makes sense. So, I mean, that's normally what I would do. And you'll see pros all the time. Anytime you see them with a shot like this, where they're not straight, but they have like a little angle. If they draw the ball, they're going to come back this way. So if they need to kind of come up the table this way, it's that stun draw. So I basically, again, just a little below center. And that way I can keep my speed down and just hit a nice smooth speed. So right now I'm just like maybe a quarter tip below center. And I can make it come that way. Where if I hit a stun shot at that same kind of angle, it's going to go there. And if I hit a draw shot, it's going to come like that. So the stun draw gets you kind of in between those two angles. It's a little bit of a feel thing, because again, subtle differences in the distance and the angle will make a difference. But again, just being able to go a little below the stun shot, and to be able to come up that line, you have to be able to learn that stroke and be able to do that pretty repeatedly. So another good rule is the 30-degree rule. There's actually a couple of good uses for that. How many people are not or are not familiar with that? It's hard to say. Say what? I know, okay. So Dr. Dave has a great write-up on this on his website. I probably saw it, I think it's been out since the mid-2000s maybe. I think he has about 5 or 6 articles actually, if you care to look at all the scientific proofs and all that kind of good stuff. But so basically, when you're hitting a ball with a rolling ball, so a naturally rolling, a little bit of follow, naturally rolling ball, if you hit a ball between a quarter of the ball and 3/4 of the ball, the cue ball will roughly come off of the ball at about a 30-degree angle. Okay, so technically, what's nice about, in case you don't know as well, a lot of people believe people talk about a half ball hit, where you're hitting half the ball. And that's kind of nice, because basically it's easy to aim, right? The left edge of the cue ball is going to be right in the middle of the ball, and the center of the cue ball is going to be aimed at the edge of the ball. So that would be, I'm hitting half a ball. For anybody that uses fractional aiming when they play, they're probably very used to that. So a 3/4 ball hit would be like this, where I'm eclipsing about 3/4 of the ball, and a 1/4 ball hit would be something like that, where I'm hitting about a quarter of the ball. So anywhere in those ranges, the cue ball will leave that object ball at about a 30-degree angle. It ranges from like 27.5 to 32.5 or 33, but it's very, very close. So what's cool about this is, let's say I have a shot like this, and I want to know where that cue ball is going to hit the rail. Dr. Dave came up with this peace sign technique because he measured, for most people, the distance between their two fingers, if you really stretch them out wide, is about 30 degrees. So if I look at the cue ball approaching that ball, I want to put one of my fingers on the line that the cue ball is taking to the ball and put it right over the ball. And then I want to look at my other finger and project the line down, and I can see that I'm going to hit probably about right there. So if I hit this with a smooth speed and a rolling ball, I'm going to hit that spot on the rail. And again, that's going to be true for anything from a quarter ball to a three-quarter ball hit. So basically from like a 15-degree shot to about a 45, 47-degree shot, and anywhere in between, it's going to be pretty close. So it's a good way to estimate where the cue ball is going to go. Now, I've had students that have actually seen this stuff online, and they walk around the table, doing this all the time, trying to figure out where they're going to hit, and that's fine. And you want to do that for some period of time, I'm sure. But when you play for a while, you should be able to just kind of visualize it. But it's a great way to kind of kickstart your your feel. It's a nice mechanical way to figure that out. So, and again, if I have a ball sitting here, let's have a ball like that, and my shot's about like this, and I'm concerned that I might hit the 3-ball. So I can look at my cue ball path, put my finger like that, and I can see that the cue ball should come in right about here. So if I hit this soft with a rolling ball, I can see that I'm going to miss the 3-ball. So any questions on that rule? Yes? Exactly. Yep. You can see if you're going to scratch. You can see if you're going to maybe potentially break out a cluster that might be on the table. And if you do the 30 degree and you see that it's going to miss, then you can also use that 90-degree rule, the tangent line, and see if you can hit, like, say, a cluster of balls that way. So it's pretty accurate to be able to tell, assuming you hit the ball correctly, where it's going to go. So a scratch is a great... I'm trying to think. Something like this. This is kind of one that always people say, oh, it's a dead scratch. And there's plenty of room to maneuver the cue ball with draw or follow to miss the scratch. But I can't really reach over the table this way. But I bet you if I could do this accurately, my finger is going to be pointing like right at that corner pocket. So when I hit something like this one probably will might come up a little short. Okay. So again, I can kind of see it from back here without reaching that far, but you can kind of see that if you hit it with follow, it's going to come up here. But if I have that same kind of shot and I put a little more of a stun stroke on it, so more center ball, that's where the danger is. And so again, knowing that, you can pick one option or the other to not scratch.
Again, if you want to deviate either from the 90 or that 30 degree, it comes down to where you're hitting on that cue ball.
Exactly.
It's a little harder to deviate that angle, either open it or close it.
Exactly. Yep. Little more follow would have a little more aggressive follow on the ball, which would change the angle a little bit. A little more speed will delay that tangent line and have it hit a little different spot. So you can access, and again, just to reiterate, because a lot of people feel this way, putting side spin on the ball until it hits a rail does nothing to change that angle. So you have to change those angles with the amount of draw or the amount of follow you're putting on the ball. Putting right English or left English on the ball is not going to make that ball go to a different spot on the rail. So your tools at your disposal are basically speed and the amount of spin you put on the ball.
So that left to right English comes into play
After it hits a rail.
that rail you want to open or close.
Exactly. So another nice thing about the 30-degree rule is, again, I mentioned 30 degrees is hitting half of a ball. So what's nice about hitting half of a ball is it's very easy to see. Now, a lot of people, myself included, use different types of aiming systems when they're playing pool, but there's quite a lot of players, including some very good players, that just use, ghost ball or contact point or some sort of other method of aiming. But even if you use kind of a ghost ball or contact point method of aiming, if you have a half ball hit on a ball and you can actually aim at the center of the cue ball and aim the center of your shaft at the edge of the ball, it gives you something very concrete to aim at. And so when you can recognize a half ball hit, it can be pretty useful. Now again, not everybody looks at the shots that way, but we can use that same technique to determine if a shot's a half ball hit. So let's say I set up something like this. I can look at where the cue ball is going to hit, and I can look at my other finger, and it's pointing right into the pocket. So that means that from this line of attack, that is a half ball hit. Now that's not where the cue ball is going to go. The cue ball is going to go that way, but I'm kind of doing this in the reverse just to measure the angle. So since this is a half ball hit, I can aim the center of this cue ball at the edge of that ball, which will allow me to hit half the ball, and the ball should go in. Okay. And you'll learn to recognize half ball hits if you play around with them. Again, something like this is a half ball hit. And I can aim, again, I can aim right at the edge of that ball and make the ball. So it just kind of simplifies your aiming a little bit, especially if you have a long shot. I'm aiming I'm typically, we're not using English, so I'm aiming at the center axis of the cue ball, and I'm aiming it right at the edge of the ball, because that's basically a half ball hit. The edge of the cue ball is at the middle of the ball, right, because I'm eclipsing about half the ball, and then the center of the cue ball is pointed at the edge of the ball.
So where's your cue?
Right down the center of the cue ball. So I'm basically, my cue stick is aimed right at the edge of the ball, because I want to hit about half the ball, if that makes sense. So it's nice when you can recognize that angle, and again, you have a little bit of leeway. But something like this, if I happen to see, oh, that looks like a half ball hit, rather than coming over here and like aiming and doing all of that, if I recognize the angle just from practice, I can just get down and just aim the middle of my cue stick right at the edge of that ball. And especially if it's a long distance, it just makes it easy. And like I said, I spent a lot of time working with things like this, so it's easy for me to see. And half ball hit's a big principle in 3-cushion billiards, which I used to play a lot, so you get used to recognizing them. But again, you can use that peace sign technique to validate if a shot is 30 degrees or not, and kind of build up your visualization of that type of shot. Another useful, ever since they changed the rules in pool, this doesn't come up a whole lot, but if you're ever playing a game like straight pool or one pocket where they spot balls up, or if you're playing a ring game where you're gambling and typically there's no ball in hand, you may end up having a shot like this. So if you take a line from the inside edge of this pocket and you point it at the edge of that ball, that is a 30-degree shot. And so when people have to shoot spot shots, a lot of times they put the cue ball randomly somewhere up here, and they're having to aim the shot to make it go in the pocket. And that's fine, but if you can get it to where it's a half ball hit, it gives you something to aim at. I can actually aim at the edge of the ball instead of just randomly aiming at the ball trying to make it. So if I can start out right here on the inside of the pocket and visualize a line to the edge of the ball, I just want to get a little closer. I don't want to hit it from back here. So I just kind of come up this way like this, and because usually you can only go as far as the line. So from here, I don't really even have to aim this ball. I know it's a 30-degree shot, so I don't have to come over here and look and do everything. All I have to do is aim my stick at the edge of that ball. So, of course, sometimes I can't do that, but you know. Okay. So I could probably, if my stroke is doing good that day, I mean, I really feel like if I shot 100 of those, I'm probably supposed to make like, 95 of them, because I'm not really doing anything except just aiming my stick at the edge of the ball and hopefully just making a nice clean stroke. Now, certainly if you flinch or twist or anything like that, you'll still potentially miss the ball. But having something to aim at, there should be really no question, right? I mean, it makes it an easy shot. Now, again, we don't shoot spot shots a lot anymore because it's all ball and hand rules. But again, playing a ring game, or if a ball is near that area, it can kind of give you confidence in shooting that type of shot. Any questions on the 30-degree rule?
I get confused when you're aiming, when you're doing the V, and the one that goes over the cue ball. I'm not sure. Are you going to a hole or are you going?
So the question was about how to point the V. Let me try to do it sort of towards you. So if my line of my shot is like right here, I want to go from like kind of where that ghost ball position is and I would basically be coming right down that line and putting my finger right there. And then the other finger is going that way. So again, if I look down that other finger, I'm pointing about halfway between those two diamonds. So with a rolling ball, okay.
So it's pointing where the ghost ball should be.
Yeah, and along the line that the cue ball is going to take to the ball. Yep. And then you have to get kind of close to it so that because if you come back too far, it'll be a little bit off. But yep. And like I said, if you're interested, if you go to Dr. Dave's website, there's at least a half a dozen articles, I think, on the tangent line stuff and the 30-degree rule too, if it helps to kind of visualize it. Another good angle rule is and I covered it, I think, in one of my previous clinics, is the 45-degree rule. And so that basically says if you're hitting a ball at 45 degrees, that the cue ball is going to travel forward about 1 diamond. So 45 degrees from here, so if I come 3 diamonds out and then come 3 diamonds over, that would be 45 degrees, right? If we can all picture like a nice square, and 45 degree is right down the middle of that. So from this angle, if I hit that 4 ball into the pocket, the cue ball should come down about a diamond. So I should scratch. Okay. Now it rolled a little forward. This is a little bit newer cloth, and it grabs a little bit differently. But it's a good rule of thumb. I'll try to hit it just a little easier so the follow doesn't grab as much. Okay, so it's a very, like I said, it's a very good rule of thumb. So if you have a shot like that, say you're up here and you're on about a 45-degree angle, if you know that it goes down about a diamond, you can kind of predict whether you're going to scratch or not. I mean, let's say your next ball is here. So if I see that I'm about 45 degrees and I see that I'm about the second diamond, I should feel pretty confident the ball is going to come in about right here. And so if I just hit a natural rolling ball, I don't need to use any English, I don't need to do anything different with the cue ball, and I should have confidence that it's going to come in right there. Okay, so it's a pretty good visual rule to learn and to practice because it, again, for position play, it really helps you get a very strong feeling of where the cue ball is going to go. Yes, sir. No, that would be for a 30-degree shot. So half ball hit is 30 degrees. So yeah, at a 45-degree angle, I actually got to aim that one a little bit. Just a little. Now, a 45-degree shot approaches a quarter ball. A quarter ball is like 49.6 degrees or something. So if you aim fractionally, that would be basically where you're aiming the left edge of the cue ball at a quarter of the ball. So for some people, when they aim fractionally like that, they see that angle pretty well. And so the left edge of the cue ball would be not at the center, not at the edge, but like right in between. So it'd be pretty close to that. That's how a lot of people see the shot. Now this also works the length of the table, but because the table is twice as long as it is wide, again, if I come 2 diamonds up and 2 diamonds over, it'd be about right here. So instead of it going 1 diamond, it'll go 2 diamonds. So again, this should be, a shot like this would be pretty close to scratching from this angle, because this would be about a 45. Okay, so it's pretty close. So again, if you can visualize those types of angles and you happen to have an angle like that, for instance, if I had a shot like this and my cue ball was at a 45-degree angle, since I know it's going to move about 2 diamonds over and I'm only like a diamond and a half roughly, I should feel pretty comfortable, this is my next shot, that the cue ball is going to come in like somewhere around here. It should come short of scratching. And that way I know I don't need to put any English on the ball or anything. Okay. So it's good to visualize those types of shots. It helps you build up your kind of mental computer of where the cue ball is going to go at different angles and different speeds. There's another sort of corollary to that 45-degree rule, and I think Ralph Eckert showed this in one of his demonstrations. And it's not really a specific degree, but he kind of showed this principle along with that 45-degree rule. And that is if the balls are about here and they're roughly even, kind of parallel to the rail, the cue ball with a naturally rolling ball is going to come in somewhere around there. So again, no English, no anything, just straight follow on the cue ball. Okay. So, and that's true if you come a little bit farther out even. So same shot, but now I've got more angle. Oh, missed the ball. These shots are a little bit tougher. Okay. Now it does break down when you get real close to the rail because the follow is going to hit the rail and kind of come in more here, but roughly about a diamond out. And it doesn't matter that much how close you are to the rail or how far away you are from the rail. It works about the same. So if I see something like this, right? So it's a good little rule to know because again, if you're playing position across the table and you have to get to a ball down here and you know you're going to come in right here, you know you don't need to put some English on it or maybe you need to put a little bit on. A lot of people when they have a shot like this, they always want to put right English on the ball, outside English. They always want to kind of help it go down that way. And if you put right English on this shot, you're actually going to come in way down here, which might be okay, it might be what you want, but you have to realize that the cue ball picks up a little English when it cuts across the ball and when it hits the rail, so you don't really need to use right English on this shot to get all the way down table. You can just hit it with a nice rolling cue ball. Let's see. I'm guessing if I hit it harder, it's probably going to go down the tangent line longer before it follows, so depending on how strong of a follow I put on it, it could come in a little short or it could come in a little long. So if I really follow it, see how you got that curve effect off the rail? So I would normally not want to hit a ball like that. It's especially on new cloth like this, if you hit a ball with follow into the rail, if you, oh, that's okay. Good thing it's cement floors, yeah. But yeah, you generally, especially on newer cloth, and again, I mean, I only play on new cloth maybe a few times a year at some of the larger tournaments, but typically in a pool room, you know, we're used to playing on cloth that's kind of worn in a little bit. And on new cloth, you generally don't want to hit a ball with follow, with a lot of pace into the rail, because it'll really curve off the rail, and it's very hard to predict that curve, which is also why when a lot of the pros are kicking at balls on new cloth, they're not generally kicking with a high ball either because of that curve effect. They're usually having to stay down more toward the middle of the ball.
But you could use a harder to get the ball back down the table.
If I had to go all the way around the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so if I had to go all the way around the table, I would actually want to hit this rail. Because if hitting this rail, the cue ball, when it hits opposite rails like that, it kills all the English. So if I hit here and here, it's going to kind of come in this way and kind of die down over here somewhere. It'll never get all the way back up table. So I have to put some right English on it to try to hit continuous rails to keep the running English on it. So for that, if I know my follow shot is going to come in here and I'm trying to hit down over here, I need to put some draw on the ball. And then I put a little bit of right English on it to help it go around the table as well. Right? So then that's how you would get around the table that way, is hitting the rails together like that. I haven't done it in a while, honestly. It works around the first time, and like I said, if you get too close from here, I don't think it's not going to quite get down that far. It'll be close. And then I would say maybe about 2.5 diamonds down. Problem is, when you're parallel like this, that shot is very difficult. I mean, that's probably like a 70-degree cut. I think it would still work, but my chances of making the ball might be a little slimmer. Yeah, so I still came in the same spot. I just would never shoot that shot. And then from here, I don't know, I think it may. Yeah, see, there, it's going to break down at that point. So, any questions on that?
Dr. Dave talked about that 45 degree as well?
I don't think so. Not that I recall. So there's another sort of similar rule to the 45 that I don't think a lot of people know, or it's not talked about that much, but it's almost kind of a reverse engineered version of the 45 degree rule, and that's the 60 degree rule. And one of my buddies in Germany I don't know if he came up with it or just published it or whatever, but it's not widely talked about. And when a ball is near the rail, basically the rule is if you subtract the angle that you're hitting the ball at from 60, and the resulting angle is where the cue ball is going to hit on the rail. So I can show you a few examples. So if I have a 15 degree cut and I know a lot of people aren't used to thinking in terms of angles of shots, but a 15-degree shot is about a 3/4 ball hit. So, and the line for that is about right here. So if I move that over, that would be a 15-degree shot right there. And so if I look at this, 60 minus 15 is 45, so that means the cue ball is going to come out at about 45 degrees. So if I measure that angle, it should hit right about there. So again, that's a good thing to visualize. And again, this was just with a rolling ball. Okay, pretty close. And so again, if I have a half ball hit, so again, this is going to be that 30-degree shot. Should be right about here. This will actually go 30 degrees coming off of the ball. And 60 minus 30 is 30. So 30 degrees off of here is going to put me pretty close to the corner pocket. So I should come pretty close to scratching on this. Okay. And then if I have a 45-degree shot, which is what we just kind of went over, it's going to come off at 15 degrees. And 15 degrees happens to be the distance between about one diamond. It's about 1.1 diamonds. So that's where that whole, I don't know if the 45-degree rule came from that or the 60 came from the 45, but if I have that same exact shot, I'll come up 3 diamonds and come over 3 diamonds. This should land, since I'm sitting about the second diamond, this is going to come in about right here. So just a hair below, or yeah, a hair below that first diamond. Okay. So I don't expect anybody to grab their protractors and start measuring angles and everything around the table, but to me, I mean, any knowledge you have at the table is good knowledge, and you can learn these angles by hitting, 10,000 or 100,000 balls and kind of just get a feel for it. But if I were to show, like, say, a brand new student some of these rules, they immediately know where the cue ball is going, and then they can kind of base their experience at the table on that and kind of get a real fast kickstart to figuring out where the cue ball goes instead of just guessing for 3 to 5 years as they gradually hit more and more balls. Now again, there's some little tricks. I'm more than happy to send anybody that's interested. I have some write-ups and stuff I've done. I can send you guys some things where it kind of shows you how to estimate some of the angles around the table. I'm pretty familiar with them just from working with aiming systems over the years, but I just think it's good to have that visualization. I think most people can kind of visualize a 45-degree angle, and with a little bit of practice, you can kind of see the 15 and 30-degree angles. And it just, I don't consciously think about this stuff when I'm playing anymore, but when I was younger, I did. And I think it helped me build up my kind of understanding of where the cue ball would go much quicker than if I had just kind of randomly started hitting balls around the table. I also think having a baseline of hitting the ball as a stop shot and being able to hit the ball as a rolling ball, I think those two shots are probably the most important on the table. And so if you can learn what the cue ball does with a stop shot or a stun shot, and then you can learn what the cue ball does with a rolling ball, you can really play position pretty accurately on the table. Drawing the ball and doing other things are going to be takes a little more skill, a little more practice, and a little more feel to be able to control those angles. Any questions on those shots so far? The other shot I want to show you, and again, this is kind of a two-part thing, is there's a 90-degree rule. We talked about the tangent line. There's also a 90-degree rule for draw shots. And so basically, if I have about a half ball hit, and again, we talked about that earlier, so I can even kind of validate, right, if I'm going to hit down this line to see if that's going to go in the pocket. So if I have about a half ball hit, which is a 30-degree shot, if I use kind of a nice clean draw stroke, the cue ball is going to roughly travel about 90 degrees to the shot. So that means if I hit into this, my cue ball should end up kind of coming right along that line. Okay, so it was almost exactly, that 90-degree line was just slightly this way. It was almost exactly down that line. So, I mean, that doesn't come up a lot, but again, knowing that, it's helpful because you know, again, if you hit it properly, that you're not going to scratch. Because if you can see that that 90 degree is pointing just shy of that and you hit it properly, you know you're safe basically when you hit the ball. So again, a shot like this, I should hit somewhere up in here. Okay, put a little extra draw on it so it drew back a little more, and again the cloth's a little slidey, but again it's coming up at that angle. So this rule is actually based on another thing that is on Dr. Dave's website for draw shots. And essentially it says that if you draw the ball at a certain angle, that at a normal speed, kind of a normal amount of draw, that the cue ball is going to come off at twice the angle that you go in at. So visualize a shot like this, let's say. If I can see, here's my shot, and there's kind of my angle, right? So it's kind of hard to visualize, but it's kind of like a very small triangle. So if I can expand that out one more time, and then one more time again, this is where the cue ball should hit on the draw shot. Okay, so I overdrew that one a little bit, and I also might have hit that a little bit into the far close side of the pocket. Try that again. Okay, so it should hit right about there. Okay, it's a little better. So again, you saw the first time I kind of over-amped on it a little bit, so it's going to draw back a little more. If I underdrew the ball, it's going to draw back a little less. So it's not a hard and fast rule because I can't tell you to hit the ball the same way I am or the same way Dr. Dave is, but it's kind of a good, I think he calls it a trisection system or something, but it's a good guideline to use. So what's nice about it, he's got some drills on his website where the ball starts out here and you're trying to hit every diamond around the table. And it's called the wagon wheel drill, and it's very difficult. So the first couple spots are really easy. As you start to get over here, it's difficult. So if I have ball in hand and the ball starts out here and I'm trying to hit this ball off of one rail, I can either visualize it or I can try to use that system to try to guesstimate a little bit where I want to be. So again, I'm trying to find an angle where if I can like double it is going to hit that ball. So something about like that looks like it should work. Okay. And so when you're doing the drill, the whole goal is you have to touch the ball. And they usually, like I said, they put them on all the diamonds and go around, and you have 10 spots, and you get 2 shots at each spot. And it's pretty difficult. Like even Shane did the drill, a few other pros did the drill, and I mean, that's, of all the little mini drills that are in the larger drill, that's the one that's usually the most difficult for people. Like I said, these first couple spots are pretty easy to hit, but when you're having to guesstimate drawing the ball back like that, it's difficult. So, and again, this doesn't come up a lot in games, because usually you have a little bit more leeway. But again, if I have a tight window, if I have a shot like this, and I have something like that, and I need to get on the 3 ball, just shoot it down in that corner, it would be helpful if I can visualize this. And again, if you just visualize it from hitting a ton of balls, that's fine too. But it's nice if you can kind of visualize that angle and kind of see where it's going to go. And so I feel like if I just draw this ball normally, I should be able to land in between those balls. Close. But I think I still have a shot. Nope, I do have a shot. So it's good to be able to visualize that. And again, you can hit a bunch of balls and you can figure it out that way. But I'm a big science nerd, I guess. So it's helpful to know the rules. And again, you don't want to clutter your brain up with all kinds of complex stuff. But I know I've showed some beginning players that I've taught some of these things, and it really does help. It's like learning a banking system or learning a kicking system. It helps you build up your feel if you know where you can aim at something, and then you just start to see the shots. Even the people I work with aiming systems, the aiming systems are great and they can be useful tools, but what it really does for you is it helps you to see correctly where you need to hit the ball to make it go in the hole. However you get there is fine, but I think all those things help. So, any questions on any of the angles or anything else kind of relative to this? Okay. Well,
So would you say that most of your shots, you're either using rolling the ball or instant shot versus the draw?
yeah. So the question was using are most of my shots using stun shots or rolling ball? As much as possible, yes. If I'm playing, if I just throw 5 or 6 balls out, if I'm playing properly, this first shot's a little bit of a pain, but not again, this first shot, it's a little difficult because of where the 9 is, but I'm trying to figure out what the best way is, the highest percentage way for me to get on the next ball. So I see there's a huge kind of triangle over here. So, and it also allows me to get down on the 3 ball. So that's where I'm looking at. I mean, the other way I can look at this is to try to come over here, but with the 10 here, I could get stuck up over the 10 or something like that. So, so this first shot is actually going to kind of go against one of my principles, which is if I have ball in hand, I usually just try not to draw the ball. Usually there's a better way to do it. But with this particular shot, I can't really make it clean up here, so I am going to draw the ball. But let me get past this first one. Okay. And you can see it wasn't like a big draw stroke. It was very controlled. So, I mean, that's okay. Now here, again, let me just move this a little bit. So let's just say I have a shot like that. I can just come straight up and down the table with a rolling ball. I can also come 2 rails out of the corner like this. But if I just want to keep things simple, right, I can just kind of gently roll down the table like that. And then for this shot, I would do the same thing, but now I'm going to put a little bit of right English on it because my tangent line's got me going in here, and it's coming up kind of right at the 5 ball. I don't want to be that steep on the 5. I just kind of want to be over here. So I just put a little bit of right English on the ball. Okay, just to kind of give me a little more angle. Now again, this one I'm going to have to draw a little bit because I want it to slow down a little bit and come into the corner. But if that 10 ball wasn't there, I would just roll this ball and roll up here and roll over to right about there and then just come over. So we'll cheat a little bit. Because that would be my preference for hitting the shot, is not to try to do anything crazy with a big draw shot or a bunch of spin, just to kind of hit it nice and easy and let the cue ball naturally roll where it wants to roll. Right? So then it just becomes a little bit of a speed control exercise. Same thing here. There's no reason to use any spin or draw or anything. I'm just going to roll the ball very naturally back up towards center table. Right? Same thing here, right? I can hit a stun shot and just come back up for the ball like that. So if I'm playing well and I'm seeing the patterns well and my speed's good, those are the shots I like to hit, just a little stun shot or rolling the ball. And I may use a little bit of right or a little bit of left. I may use a lot of left or right if I get out of line, but I'm trying to stay in line to where I don't have to do that. And certainly there's going to be shots, especially playing 9-ball. These types of shots come up all the time. And you get into something like this, and you may have to kind of more draw the ball instead of stun the ball, or you may have to put a little bit of spin on it. But again, it's not like some big, massive draw stroke. I'm just kind of altering the tangent line a little bit to get back down there. But ultimately, that was really just a stun shot with a little bit of draw. What I'm trying not to do, and I mean, again, we all do it, but what I'm trying not to do is leave myself in positions, even though it's not that difficult, I'm trying not to leave myself like this, where I'm straight in, and I have to, basically draw the ball back down the table. Now, I can hit that shot pretty well from doing it, but there's still room for error hitting that shot. If I do that 10 or 20 times versus, having a little bit of angle like this, or I can just simply hit it much softer, much easier, I'd rather do that.